So I've worked for over 150 food brands in my career. Everything from commercial stores. So I styled over 600 packaging items for Pick and Pay, and over 300 recipes for Karen Beef. KFC are one of my biggest clients, so a lot of KFC billboards and TV commercials. I work for Pizza Hut. I'm going to get into trouble because I'm not naming all of them. Put me on
She's
the
not
spot.
saying these are her favorites.
Not my
Just
favorites.
the ones she can remember.
A lot of Tiger Brands clients as well, which I always love working with. And with my pack styling as well, I work with alcoholic brands. So I do things like Castle Light and Johnny Walker, and pack styling is a whole different world as well, which I really love. And that's also something that stylists can delve into. They can either decide if they want to stay on food wholly, if they want to work with product packaging, or if it's beverages and liquids specifically.
Welcome to Chefing Beyond the Kitchen. I'm your host, Marau. Join us for conversations with amazing people doing amazing things in food. Today we're chatting to the amazing food stylist, Bianca. Bianca, welcome to Chefing Beyond the Kitchen.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for making the time. I know food stylists are super busy, so thank you so much for finding the time to come and chat with us.
Only a pleasure. I'm very happy to be here.
Let's start with some icebreakers.
Okay.
So you relax into our conversation.
Yes, because I'm used to being behind a camera,
I know.
not in front of one.
And today here you are in front of the camera.
Thank you.
And you look at home here.
Oh, thanks. I can feel at home here.
Yeah. So when is the last time you smiled and what made you smile?
Oh, just now, looking at you.
Oh, thank you.
I'm a smiler. I'm a hugger. So there's no moment in the day that I'm not smiling about something. I was on a set until late last night, and I think leaving and seeing my client happy really made me smile, and I brought the energy in today.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, thank you for that energy. I can feel it.
Thank you.
And what is your favorite thing right now?
Oh, at the moment, I love singing very loudly in my car to a song, Beautiful Things by Benson Boone. It makes me incredibly happy. And I'm also fairly addicted to the Woolworths Chili Crunch.
I can relate.
Okay. If you've got any connections, I don't mind lifetime supply that sent to my home.
Let's see what we can do about that.
Thank you.
And the 3 people you would want to host for a dinner, and why?
This is a difficult one because most of the people I would like to have for dinner are no longer alive. Who wouldn't love being serenaded at a dinner by Freddie Mercury?
Oh, yes.
Or chatting to Anthony Bourdain about his travels around the world and the incredible food adventures he went on. And we're just going to throw in a Frida Kahlo because we need some woman power around the table, right? And talk about all that feminism and the most incredible magic that she brought to this world.
Amazing. That's an amazing list.
Thank
This
you.
is actually my favorite question because you get the most interesting answers from people.
Yeah, it is. It's very difficult to think about because there's so many different answers. And one of the things I considered was, would they get along if they were all sitting around a table?
That's also something to think about. I mean, you love them, but will they love each other?
Yeah, I'm not so sure. In short, my real answer would be, do they have to come for dinner? Can I not be invited to dinner so that someone can cook for me?
Something I relate to very much.
Thank you.
I would love for someone else to do the cooking.
Absolutely. Every now and again.
Every now and again. Now we get into the main course, the actual conversation. I have been so excited to talk to you. Like I was telling you, so sorry for hounding you because I just wanted you on this podcast. I've been such a fan for such a long time. I follow all your work on social media, the billboards, everything that you do. I think is so amazing. And I was just telling you now, I have the biggest, the greatest respect and admiration for food stylists. I think a lot of people think it's just all about making the food pretty, but they don't realize just how much work it is, how much strength it requires, physically, mentally, emotionally. I don't know how you do it, so kudos to you for having done it for so long.
Thank you so much.
Really, really amazing. But for those that don't know, explain to me what a food stylist does.
In short, we make you hungry for a living.
Yeah.
But a food stylist's main job is to prepare food in a practical manner, paying special attention to detail, and displaying it beautifully for a camera, whether it be for still photography or for film. So ultimately, my job as a food stylist is to tell a food story that is so jewel-worthy that consumers go out and purchase my clients' products.
So that would be in ads on TV, on billboards, in menus, in cookbooks?
Yes. So there's an editorial version of being a food stylist and a commercial food stylist, and they are quite different. You can do both, but generally you would choose to move in one direction or another. So an editorial food stylist will mostly focus on on magazines and on beautiful cookbooks, and a commercial food stylist will focus on menus, billboards, packaging for food items, and TV commercials.
And you are?
I'm a commercial food stylist.
And why did you choose to go that way?
As much as there's special technique in making things look beautiful for a cookbook, and I think there's a lot of love that's poured into that. I enjoy the rush of being a commercial food stylist. I enjoy the high pressure, I enjoy the stress, I enjoy working with my clients and being pushed outside of regular limitations and boundaries as to what is required from a person. I would say more than 50% of my job role is actually relationships, creating relationships with clients, and focusing on managing those relationships on a set, which I really love.
That is incredible. That is incredible. So, and I was asking you earlier, which do you prefer, still photographs or moving, like videos?
I love both, and for two different reasons. I used to primarily love still photography more. It's in a controlled environment to begin with, more controlled, where it's you and your photographer and your small team, and you're all focused on one thing. You know, there's a room of people, a small group, and everyone's kind of looking at you and waiting for you to put something up in front of a camera. And I can really hone in on my craft. I can sit there with my pair of tweezers for as long as I need to, and I
make it perfect.
Make it so perfect. And when you look at the image, it's just sitting there in all its glory. And what's amazing about that is other people will also appreciate that, and it can live there forever. When it comes to film and TV commercials, what I love about that is the teamwork that comes into play. There are 50 to 60 odd crew members on a set at any given point, and every single person has their role to play. In order for you to do your job well, they first need to do theirs. And we all have the same goal in mind. So we come together to create something magical, but I just love how you're almost a family on set. You all have to kind of hold hands and do something together.
You do. Well, then take me back to the beginning. How did it all start? How did you become the food stylist that you are today? Where did you even begin?
The beginning, way back when. Gosh, I was born in Johannesburg into a loving family. My dad is Greek, so naturally people would think that my love of food would come from my Greek culture. But we weren't really focused on food as a family. Food was important because we sat around a table and we shared it together. But we had ups and downs and times where food was unaffordable. And it was never really something that we thought about. And then my life got turned upside down. I was 13 years old, and my mom put me on a plane, and without the opportunity to say goodbye to my family, she whisked me off to Baja, Mexico, where I landed in a strange country without any idea of the culture or the language, and just had to kind of get on with it. So I lived there for a few years, and the culture, the people, the food, there was something so magical about that place. I connected with it so deeply. It really is where my love of food began. I came back to South Africa just before I turned 16 to visit my family for a holiday, and they asked me to stay. And as hard as it was to say goodbye to my mom, what was really special about it was that they had offered me a good education where I could actually have a career one day, and for me that was really important. So after I finished school, my dad was like, "What are you going to do with your life? You know, the big question." And I sat there going, "I want to work with food." And he was like, no, you can't do that.
Yeah.
And my mom and dad ran restaurants in the 80s, and they used to tell me how hard it was. And I mean, they got married on a Monday on their only day off. You know, they had squeeze in a quick wedding in there, and it was really tough. So he was like, please don't do that to yourself. I want you, to have a better life.
Mm-hmm. More secure
life. And I think, traditionally speaking, when you think about going into a career of food, we talk about being a chef, working in a restaurant, owning a restaurant.
Yeah,
and
that's what most people think.
That is what people think, which is why I love this idea that you have this for this podcast, because it is so important to speak about all the different
to
parts
educate
of food
about
and
what
of
else
food.
is out there.
Absolutely. So I did not study food. I ended up studying a degree in fashion design at LISAF. And at the time I was putting myself through college, I was waitressing and managing a restaurant. My boss at the time, Vicky Clark, she owned this beautiful restaurant, Beyond 66, and she also owns fresh food catering, and she's just always magic with food. She had a career in fashion and in food, and we sat one day and we spoke about it, and it started to mull over in my mind that I could do what I really wanted to do, and that I could also change my career. Things evolve over time. It's not always one thing that you choose to do forever. So I dropped out of my degree. I got 3 jobs to pay back my degree.
Yo.
And one of them was me walking into a restaurant and asking for a job as a chef with absolutely no experience.
Love it.
I got paid 8 rand an hour, and my parking.
When was that?
15 years ago. Not even that long
Still,
ago.
8 rand.
8 rand an hour. My parking was 25 rand a day. So hence the other 2 jobs. And that wasn't even minimum wage. Restaurant industry is tough, and people can really take advantage of you. So I worked my way around the kitchen, and I was really nurtured by a loving team.
Amazing.
And I left there with the opportunity to continue a full-time position at the restaurant, which I turned down. And I didn't know what to do next, because I knew I didn't want to be a chef. Absolutely loved the rush of service, but I couldn't appreciate that I couldn't see people enjoying my food.
Yeah.
Or, that I didn't get to, I was doing the same monotonous prep every single day, which was tiresome. So I spoke to a friend of mine who was a chef, and he said, hey, Bianca, there's this thing called food styling. You should check it out. They do it in like New York and all these fancy places, and for us, something that happened internationally was, not something that happened here. We hadn't heard about it. And I was like, I really need to look into this. And so what I started doing was assisting food photographers. So I started setting up their lighting for them and carrying all their gear around. And I got to watch food stylists from behind the scenes and figure out if it's what I really wanted to do.
Yeah.
The pivotal moment was being able to assist on a Food and Home magazine cover. And I knew then that that's what I wanted to do. So on one of these jobs, I got hired as a food stylist assistant. And I did that for 6 months to a year until I went on my own.
And this is here in Joburg?
And this is here in Johannesburg, yes. And the rest is history.
Oh my goodness. What an amazing story. How did you even find a food stylist?
This is the thing. It was actually a hair and makeup artist that was on set, and she said to me, a friend of mine is a food stylist, and maybe she could use an assistant. Here's her number, and give her a call. And I was so nervous when I picked up the phone. I was like, are they going to want to work with me? I have no experience. I don't know what I'm doing. And I got hired, and we had a great relationship. I started running her catering business for her, which I did not want to continue doing.
Yeah.
And it was kind of all or nothing. So I chose to rather go on my own and start learning, which meant it took me a lot longer to get my foot in the door. But that was my journey.
And when you did.
When I did, I did. I wedged it in there.
And you got in. So the really hard question. Of all the projects that you've done for all the clients, I won't say what's your favorite, I'll say what are some of your favorites? Like ones that really stood out and you're like, wow, this was really beautiful.
That's a really hard question, so I'm glad it's not one that I have to choose, because I don't have just one.
However many.
I have such a broad answer for this, because I feel like every single project I've done has brought me so much joy. And my sister and I joke that we have like a top 5 that we don't talk about anymore, because they were really hard and they were really difficult, and we don't talk about them. But we've got all these others that are incredible and left us with a lot of joy and learnings. There isn't one in particular I can think about, but what I can say is that there are iconic brands to work on that change your career and that change your life. And every time you have the opportunity to work with them, you kick yourself. I'm just so grateful. I recently styled the packaging for Licorice Fruit, and I sit there knowing that there are so many South Africans in their home with their little box of licorice fruit in their fridge or on their kitchen counter for breakfast, where their families are sitting around and having a meal together and they're pouring their fruit juice. And
that's your work.
I touched every piece of fruit and I spritzed every little droplet on there and hung little driplets off there and had beautiful leaves that were from the garden, and I poured a lot of love into that. So
amazing.
It's things like that sit with you and go, these are things that other people will enjoy. And they'll never know how much hard work went into it, and how my knees were bruised from sitting on the floor for 5 days, or how your back ached, or how I could not find the seasonal fruits for some of the packaging items. But that's what I love. It's the challenge that really stays with me.
So what's the hardest part of the job that you do?
The hardest part, it has to be client relationships. And discussing their requirements. So understanding that as a food stylist, you cannot take things personally. As much as people think it's you on a plate, as a chef would, it really has very little to do with you, and everything to do with your client's vision. So I think the hardest thing is managing expectations, being able to sit in a meeting and have a discussion and say, I would love to give you all of these things.
They're not possible.
But I can't. And I don't like saying I can't. I don't like saying no. But it's really managing the expectations. And I think my favorite part, which is also one of the hardest parts, is improvising and problem solving. So I love problem solving. I think it's the best part about my job. It's not always about making things beautiful. It's that I can come up with a solution on the spot and be like, okay, give me a moment, I'll be right back. And then I kind of sit there for a minute and I mull over it and I'm like, I've got an idea. And we do it and it's extraordinary and everyone's like, yes, well done, we made it work, and we walk away and clients going, I'm so happy with that.
Incredible. You're kind of the most important person on set.
Don't tell people that. I mean, without the camera,
you kind of are. I mean, everyone is important on the set, but literally, you're how we get the shot. Because you were on set.
It's a lot of pressure to be under all the time. Everyone is looking at you, and there is very little room for error.
Very little. Big budgets, very little room.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
And that's why getting into this industry is so difficult, because there are the challenges that come with people trusting you. So being young and starting out isn't always the answer, because people don't feel like you have the experience to manage their projects and their budgets. And if you do, come short, then it's your reputation at stake, which is everything when you're a freelancer. But also for them, it's worth much more.
Yeah, so much more. So now take me through the process of getting the perfect shot. Let's say you're styling a burger. So take me through the planning. How would you even plan that shoot? Who's shopping is the client bringing the food? Are you shopping for the food? How are you getting to that final shot that is the right shot?
All right, so first things first.
And also, are you using real food?
Oh my gosh.
Is the question always, everybody wants to know, is it real food?
That is always the question I get on every single set. And there are so many misconceptions when it comes to food styling. I think overseas, they still use a lot of fake food, and potentially on TV commercials where we have sun blazing and lights and we're on set for hours and someone has to be holding this beautiful ice cream that isn't melting, then yes, you have to cheat some things. But generally speaking, all of the food that I shoot is real. Having been brought up where food wasn't always affordable, it's very close to my heart to not waste food. So everything that we have on set gets packaged up and it gets donated, whether it be on the side of the road on the way home or a charity that we like to give food to. Nothing goes to waste. So for me, that is an important question. People say, is it fake? Can I eat it? You're just pouring motor oil over your pancakes and using shaving cream. And I'm just like, I promise I'm not. It makes my life more difficult to use real food, but I prefer it. We also have structure in South Africa where we have to, by law, use our client's product. So if I'm selling cereal, I have to use the real thing. It doesn't mean I have to use real milk. inside the bowl because we're not selling milk. So if I need to use something else to prop up the cereal inside the bowl, I can cheat that, but I have to use their product. So we also have limitations on what we are and aren't allowed to do. A burger. Okay, let's talk about burgers. I love styling burgers. They're very exciting. There's so many levels to them. They're very challenging to do. I had a moment yesterday on set where the talent was holding her burger over here and she had to bite into it. And there's all these moving parts where she's holding it and I've got a sauce drip going and there's a whole room full of people and we have to wait for all of them to get ready before she can have her moment. It's like 30 degrees in the room and my lettuce is wilting and my sauce is dripping and obviously the bun is starting to squash and I'm just sitting there just, don't look at it, don't look at it, don't look at it.
Oh, I know.
Beads of sweat.
Because every second the food is changing.
It's changing every minute and because now there's a human element as well holding on to it. So it's shifting and you know how I can't control it. So much is out of my control.
Sure.
And as much as we don't like to admit it, I think most food stylists are control freaks. So
I think you kind of have to be.
So when it comes to a brief, a client will sit with us and say, this is how we want our burger to look. These are the elements. And they basically send me like a 356-page document on their guideline, how it needs to look, how it needs to be prepared, and the do's and don'ts. So once that happens and I understand the product, I then put in a food order if it's a big commercial client. They will provide me with the 200 burger buns that I need and the 30 patties and whatever else comes with it. And then we get all the equipment together so that when we arrive on set, we know how to prepare the food. Usually there is no time to prepare it ahead of time or to even test the food unless we have allowances for that. So basically, on every single set that you step onto, you are figuring it out as you go. And that's why improvising as a skill is so important. We would get our little toasted buns ready and we've got all of our elements lined up separately so that I can start styling the burger in front of a camera. I will then, on my little table to one side with my tweezers, meticulously style it in layers until I kind of get to a halfway point. I'm happy to put it in front of a camera. And at that point, I finish it off with the help of my agency, my client, my creative director, and my photographer. So they all say, oh, we love what you've done, but can you put a little bit more lettuce to the left, and can you sauce it to the right, and we need a sauce strip here, and can you tilt the bun this way? So there's a lot of conversations that come into it. This is especially with still photography. We have more time to play. So I think the beginning point, so that everyone can be ready, is that I will put in a stand-in burger. So it's usually a burger that's not meticulously styled. It just has all the elements in it, and I put it in front of camera, and then the photographer has his moment to light it. When the photographer's happy lighting, that's when I come in and we do final touches. So it's a whole process. I've got a team in the back helping me prepare. It's like a dance. We all have to get the right footsteps in to make it work.
Sounds to me like the relationship between photographer and food stylist is really important. Yeah, tell me about that. Do you have favorites? Or is there a photographer that you don't have to name them, that you're like, I am not working with that guy?
Absolutely.
Or girl.
Yes. I think it's the most important relationship. So at the end of the day, even though you're coming in as two separate entities, you are the team. And you rely wholly on each other to get through your task.
Absolutely.
So firstly, I do have favorites.
And I'm not gonna, you don't have to say who, but tell me why they're your favorite.
So generally there needs to be chemistry, working chemistry. It's kind of like having a work wife or a work husband where you just connect, and you know that it's going to be simple. You are, as the team, the two that need to communicate to your client or to your agency about every single step of the way. And if you cannot communicate clearly between yourselves, then you're never going to be able to communicate clearly between everybody else.
Sure.
So generally, it's someone that is not too highly strung, someone that really loves what they do and they're passionate, so they are a collaborator from start to finish. I love someone that gets involved from, they're not just a photographer, they're not someone that's going to show up, set their lighting up, put their camera there, and then press a button. They are, and I know it's not that simple. Believe me, I know it's not that simple. I really when they say, oh, I love this napkin that you've got it on, but do you have something that's a slightly darker color because it means that I can't light it, it's blowing out in camera, or they would say, that plate's just not working for me, like what do you guys think? And we'll be like, yeah, we agree, let's change it out, to the point where there is support all along the way. And in turn, I feel comfortable enough to say, I love what you're doing with this lighting on the right, but I feel like there's a bit of a shadow falling on the food here. Would you be able to fill it in? What do you think? And it's always a conversation.
Amazing. So it's a dance, like you said. It's a collaboration, and Absolutely. You guys have to know that you're on the same team.
Exactly, and to know that you feel comfortable enough to say what you think without being shot down or without being thrown under the bus in front of client.
Yeah.
I think that can be a difficult thing because there are a lot of egos on set, and not everyone knows how to manage them very well.
Do you prefer sets where the client is there, or ones where it's just you guys?
I like both for different reasons.
Really?
Yes. So when it's just...
I can pick one. And I'm sure you can know which one. I can pick one.
You can pick one. So we know having client on set can add to our challenges. It means that there are many more opinions, and when there are 7 people all looking at something and everyone thinks it's fine until one person goes, you know what, I'm not sure about that over there, and then everyone else goes, oh, actually, now that you mention it, I agree, can we change it? Yes, actually.
Can we change the whole thing?
Yeah, can we just start again?
Yeah.
So I feel like that can be challenging. Having said that, since COVID and lockdown and having to work remotely with a lot of our clients, we found it much more challenging that they weren't on set, because it meant that the feedback we were getting took much more time. By the time that they responded, my food is dying in front of a camera, which means having to style everything again from scratch. Very time consuming. It can be very frustrating. And generally speaking, clients know what they want to a point where they can come in and say, yes, we like it, or no, we don't. And I think if you're not going to have a client on set, the most important thing is to have an agency that you trust, and they know their client back to front. They really understand the do's and the don'ts, so that they can make the call and make the approval, and then they can deal with that offline.
So relationships are absolutely everything. Managing all those relationships with agency, with client, with everybody else that's working on set sounds really important.
Definitely, and especially on a TV commercial when we're filming. I think that because I work with both clients on TV and still photography, there's a challenge where I'm comfortable with the client to be able to go to them directly and have a conversation. On a TV commercial, there are protocols in place, there are processes where we need to speak to our assistant director, who needs to speak to his director, who needs to then go and speak to client. And so there's also challenges insofar as feeling comfortable enough to be able to know where the boundaries are. Can I do both, or do I need to follow the rules?
Protocol.
Yeah, and then, you know, so that you're not stepping on anyone's toes as well. So that's why, again, communication is always so important.
Sure. And speaking about communication and a team, how do you go about building that team that's going to be supporting you, that's going to deliver on all your promises? I mean, when the client hires, they're hiring you, but you come with an entire team. So how do you go about picking the team and managing the team that they deliver on all the promises that you make?
Yeah, this is a difficult one. And it's something I've really struggled with for most of my career. For the first 10, 13 years of my career, I did everything myself.
Sure.
I never had an assistant. I had an assistant on small jobs.
How? How?
I got so used to just doing everything. You know, when you start off, and like I mentioned earlier, I didn't have a proper structure of being an assistant for a long period of time. I didn't have a kind of internship that was required to understand fully what it was to be a food stylist. And I had to learn along the way, and I had to bump my head, and it took a long time because I was terrified that I would make a mistake and ruin my reputation forever. So I was very slow-paced. I wasn't a super confident new millennial who just jumps in and says, I'm a professional at this, and hasn't got the experience to back them up. I was really careful. So when it came to curating my team, what was challenging about that was I found it difficult to let go.
I can relate.
Yeah. And as I'm sure you know, you hold it so close to your heart, everything that you've created for yourself. And like you say, it's your brand, they're hiring you. And so many people have said to me, are you going to expand your business and have just a group of stylists that are going to go and set and style for you? And I'm like, that is not the point.
Yeah.
They're hiring my tweezers, my hand and my tweezers. And not just that.
Yeah, and in your hand is your experience, it's your touch, it's your eye, it's so much more.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that has been very challenging for me. Delegating is also exceptionally difficult when often you feel like you have to train someone on a set where, like I said earlier, you're learning as you go. Now you also need to teach someone else and explain to them what they need to do. Often you feel like you could do it better yourself. Of course, you're putting way more pressure on yourself. When you get to a point where you have people on your team that you can rely upon and trust, this is a really special place to be, and you got to hold on to those people. Because I've learned in recent months now only that they're the most important part of who I am on a set. And I've learned to let go, and I've learned to trust. And I'm so happy that I've been able to do that because it's taught me a lot. And I feel like really what it comes down to is basic training and understanding. But I'm not sitting there teaching textbook. It is having a conversation and just, again, communication, being open and honest about the requirements and not assuming that they understand what you want and that they can read your mind.
Yeah.
So I think that my biggest thing is reliability in a team member, because in this industry you cannot have someone that is unreliable, someone that's going to miss their call time or show up with things that they really needed to bring. Or if I ask and I send the list and say, please can you help me, I'm shooting back to back all week, can you do some prop shopping for me, and can you buy the ingredients, and here's the list. That there are basic foundations to go, okay, Bianca's going to want the reddest tomatoes for her burger, and these need to be really big tomatoes because we're selling burgers. Those are things that you'll only learn over time, which is why you start small, and then eventually, once you know that your team's feeling comfortable as well, you give them the opportunity to grow. On a set recently, I had to catch a flight, and we were still shooting, and we didn't expect to be running over time, and I literally handed everything to my assistant, and I just said, you're incredible, everything's going to be great, this is what you need to do. We spoke through it, and I got on a plane, and I left, and I knew I was in good hands.
Amazing.
And it's when you have people like that in your life, you can do anything.
That's incredible, and it sounds like it takes a lot of trust. Because like you said, all you have is your name, really. And so you're kind of putting your trust in this person to take care of that name.
Absolutely, because they're representing you as a brand. So my Joburg team are amazing, and my Cape Town team is amazing. And when I say team, I'm talking about a one person here and a one person there. We are small teams. We work very closely together, and I'm lucky that on a few jobs I get a few more hands on either side. And yesterday was a key example. We had a most intense food shoot, and everyone just got on with it, and I didn't have to worry about it, and I felt extremely supported.
Amazing. Well, speaking of support, what does that look like for you? What's the support structure and work-life balance? Do you have it?
What even is that?
What does it look like for you? What do you do when you're not working?
I think that's the hardest question you've asked me so far.
I know.
I have a simple answer. I'm always working.
So weekdays and weekends, almost the same?
Almost the same. It's 6 to 7 days a week if I'm booked. And if I am booked, I'm grateful to be booked for those days.
Yeah.
In the last few months, I have put a lot of consideration into the fact that this is not healthy and that I do need to create more boundaries. And hashtag self-care, all of those things are really important. They start adding up. And last year I wasn't well. I went through a phase where I realized I was working too hard and I was burning out. I was sick and I couldn't concentrate on my work, and I need to give my clients my best all the time, which is why I also want to say yes to every opportunity, but realize that there's so much more. In order to be my best, I also need to take care of myself. So work-life balance lately has looked like committing to time off in my calendar, a few days on the beach, taking my dogs for walks, being at home and just being like spending time in my home, having lunches with friends and cooking together. That's one of my happiest things to do. And I need to start doing more of that.
Yeah.
Yes. It also gives me room for growth in my workspace too, because I feel more creative, I feel happier, and I'm not just permanently exhausted all the time.
And creatives need their rest, hey?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So if you could kind of advise someone that's looking to get into food styling, what would you say is kind of the blueprint, a map, a way to navigate your way in the industry? And once you are in, how do you become a Bianca?
All right. So I wish I had advice when I started.
Yeah.
And one of the most important things about being in a position to give advice is that you can help others to learn and grow. When I started 15 years ago, there were no courses in South Africa. I think there was one short course with a stylist. It was unaffordable, and it was like 5 days. And when you sit and think, like, what can you really learn in that amount of time? It's not enough. So I actually did some online courses in 2012. I was already a few years into my career, and I thought, just to have a bit of expertise, I found a food stylist who was also the co-founder of the Boston International Food Styling Convention.
Amazing.
So Lisa Goldenschroeder, she was amazing. And I learned a lot from that course. But really, what I learned most wasn't about technique. It was about practice and how practice makes perfect. So when you're at home, it's about styling your own food and taking pictures. And even if the pictures aren't amazing, it's about understanding the food and how it behaves in different scenarios. And it's about understanding angles and how food needs to be photographed at its best.
Yes.
I think because we don't have a lot of courses here, as far as I know, we do have some courses in culinary institutes these days that are teaching the art of plating, but I'm not actually sure how intense the food styling courses are. As much as I would love to give a masterclass on food styling, that is something to come potentially in the future. Not quite there yet. There is something that we creatives all suffer from, the imposter syndrome. And as much as we feel like everyone has, advised me to do something like this, you've got so much to teach, I'm still learning every single day. And I don't feel like I'm in that situation or position to teach someone.
I agree with that. I'll tell you why. Because an incredible person has sat on this chair. And like I was telling you, everybody that's been on this season is everyone that was on like my original first wish list. I wanted this person. I want Bianca because she's so incredible, because she's done this, because she's such a pioneer. It absolutely must be her. And then she's like, oh no, because I suffer from imposter syndrome. And I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a teacher. I just do what I do because it's second nature to me now, and I know how to do it from the inside out. But sitting in front of a room full of people and having to teach them how to do it would be very different. So, when it comes to doing and it comes to teaching, I know that there's special skill in that. And, I might be ready for that one day. But I feel like the most important thing that someone can do to get into this industry is to shadow, at least to begin with, to understand if it's something you really want to do. Like something we spoke about, it is not what it seems. And a lot of people go into it with big eyes thinking this is going to be amazing and it's super glamorous and it's so much hard work. Do you like being on your feet for 16 hours a day? And do you enjoy washing dishes? And can you lift up 60 kilograms worth of prop boxes and put them in and out the car 4 times in a day? And can you run 7 to 10 kilometers between a kitchen and a camera?
Can you redo something 100 times?
Yeah, and not lose patience.
Yeah.
There's so much that it involves. So shadow. First, shadow. Learn if it's something you can do. And if you can get involved, completely get involved. And then there are international courses online. There were a lot of food stylists are offering courses where you can do a 2-week course and they are very involved.
Yeah.
Start building a little food styling kit on the side and practice all of those skills and techniques that you can. Go on TikTok and don't follow all the TikToks. We all know that we're not putting crazy stuff on food, but to get an idea of how things really work. You can learn so much online these days, which we didn't have back in the day. So I think that that's really a good way to do it. Phone every food stylist you can. Email every food stylist you can.
Get ready for your phone to ring.
Yeah, right? Also, I'm so sorry if I don't answer. I'm on set all the time. I get a lot of emails and WhatsApps, and I try my best to respond. It is always challenging because as many people I would love to have on set with me. Again, it comes with a challenge of having to teach someone, show them, and do my job well, which is why in the high-pressure environment it can be very difficult. But I think it's just all about practicing and getting yourself out there and having people know that you exist. Because that was my hardest thing getting into the industry, was that there were food stylists who had been in the industry for 30, 40 years. And no one else wanted to use, they didn't want to use anyone else because they were like, well, we've been using this person for so long and they're great at what they do. Why would we use someone new? People, as soon as they were like, oh, there's this new food stylist, let's give her a call. Just all you need to do is put your name out there.
True.
Yeah.
So true. So tell me what's in your toolbox. You spoke about a toolbox. What's in your toolbox?
My magical kit. What isn't in my toolbox? I mean, I've got everything from the general knives and tweezers to silicone in a squeezy, and I've got matches, I've got pins, I've got tape. I even have a thread and a needle. Cleaning things, it's a mess. Don't go in there.
I know. I've seen stylist toolboxes, and I'm like, if something happened to me, you could resuscitate me with all the things that are in here.
It's a life survival kit. You know, there's like flamethrowers and paintbrushes, and yeah, it's just a little bit of everything. Yeah. But you figure it out as you go, and you're like, oh, that actually could be really handy. We need magnets for something, and like it's food. Why would you need magnets?
Imagine
it could work. You know, that's why I was saying the problem solving is so important, and being able to have the toolkit, the magical toolkit. It's the Mary Poppins bag.
It really is magical.
Things just keep coming out of there.
It really is.
Yeah.
So tell me, what's your favorite thing to style, and what's your worst thing to style? Oh. The thing you don't like styling.
I love styling burgers. I feel very comfortable with them, which is interesting because I actually didn't have a great relationship with them years ago. Burgers and I did not get along. And you have one experience where you kind of sits with you and you feel like, oh no, I'm not sure if I'm good at this. You know, I need to practice. Burgers and we get along really well. I also have a thing for fried chicken. And I have a lot of experience styling steak. I've developed over 300 recipes for beef. So a lot of love for beef. But I would have to say burger is my favorite thing to style. My least favorite thing to style has to be a wrap. Anything that is tied up in a tight little tortilla, and you've got like things falling out of it, except they're not meant to fall out of it, but they're meant to look like things are falling out of it.
Yeah.
And there's meant to be cheese melting. Pizzas are also very exciting. Cheese pulls and cheating how that cheese melts.
The glorious
cheese pull, making sure that you get the timing just right so that the cheese is still melty but not too melty. And I think the hardest thing is then having other people touch the food. Because you're like, you make it beautiful, then the hand comes in, and I'm like,
comes in.
No, stop it.
You're like, poke it this way.
Yeah, so I think, a twister is not my best thing,
So where would we have seen your work if you're able to tell us?
Absolutely. So I've worked for over 150 food brands in my career. Everything from commercial stores. So I styled over 600 packaging items for Pick and Pay, and over 300 recipes for Karen Beef. KFC are one of my biggest clients, so a lot of KFC billboards and TV commercials. I work for Pizza Hut. I'm going to get into trouble because I'm not naming all of them. Put me on
She's
the
not
spot.
saying these are her favorites.
Not my
just
favorites.
the ones she can remember.
A lot of Tiger Brands clients as well, which I always love working with. And with my pack styling as well, I work with alcoholic brands. So I do things like Castle Light and Johnny Walker, and pack styling is a whole different world as well, which I really love. And that's also something that stylists can delve into. They can either decide if they want to stay on food wholly, if they want to work with product packaging, or if it's beverages and liquids specifically.
I see.
And I have a love for that as well.
Oh, that is amazing. So tell me about the one moment where after a job or whatever, you felt like, okay, I really am good at this. Or this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. Or for a long time. Things change.
For a time.
For a long time, yeah.
Oh my gosh, let me try to think about that. Where was I?
Like the one ad or billboard that you still think about today and you're like, yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah, I think it was getting a call up for a brand like KFC and knowing that it was one of the biggest biggest brands in the country, one of the biggest brands in the world.
Yeah.
And
they're trusting you.
They trusted me, yeah.
Yeah.
And I, you know, you don't want to choke and mess up the opportunity, and you're really trying with all your might to believe in yourself that you can do it, that it is possible. And I think there was probably one of my first KFC jobs where I walked away and I was like, they called me. I got to work with them. You know, and they're one of my favorite clients to work with. There is magic that happens, the thought that goes into it, and I've learned a lot from working on the brand.
Yeah. And what has been some of the challenges as a food stylist in the industry?
So I would have to say, besides obviously getting into the industry because it's so niche, that being the first biggest challenge. Once you have got your foot in the door and once people know about you and trust you, it really comes into play with we're talking about client relationships before, and fulfilling briefs and constantly being creative.
Yeah.
Always staying on trend and knowing what is going on in the industry, and then also, you know, knowing that there are so many up and comings. Are you going to be able to keep doing this? Are you going to be the best? Are you good enough? And because it's advertising, and I forget, I never chose to work in advertising, but here I am.
Here you are.
It's a fickle industry to work in, and there can be very little loyalty. So we, as newbies, rely so much on, but they called me and they gave me the job, and I'm in there.
Yeah.
It doesn't always work that way.
True.
You know, I don't think I had like years in between certain jobs with clients where I was like, okay, well maybe they didn't enjoy my work or they're not going to call me again. And then they're back in there and they're like, so sorry, we just diverted for a while and we came back.
But now
you
we're
know,
back.
we're back. And I think the hardest thing is running a business. It is being everyone, wearing all the hats. It is everything from your website design to your marketing, to your adminning, your invoicing, your tax, your being on set and being personable.
You're always on.
All the time.
Sure.
So I think challenges come in with finding work and keeping it consistent.
Yeah.
And I think lockdown was obviously one of the biggest challenges. And it was sitting at home for months and months on end thinking, are we ever going to work again?
Sure.
And when the film industry started getting up and running, we started getting excited, but there were no food jobs. There was no budget for food marketing, no alcohol on sale, no budget for alcohol and beverage marketing. So we sat there going, okay, well maybe eventually we'll get work again. And then when it started again at the end of 2020, so almost 7-8 months later, we sat there starting to get back into work. I think every food stylist, every food photographer in the industry, we held on to every single opportunity so tightly. Are you available? Are you available? It was like, yes, 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 yes. To the point now, 3 years later, you say yes to everything because you don't know when it's going to go away again, if it's going to go away again. And I think that was one of the biggest challenges.
Sure. Well, with so much success under your belt, Bianca, I mean, you've done it all. You've done it all. What else do you still want to do?
There's so much.
When you think about the next 5 years, what does that look like for you?
I wish I could tell you that I am that organized, that I have a 5-year plan.
We're wishful thinking here.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
No, there is a lot that I would like to still achieve.
Yeah.
And there are moments where you do a lot of repetitive work on set and you feel like, is it something I could do forever? Do I want to keep doing this forever? There's a lot of yeses and there's a lot of nos.
Yeah.
And even sustainably, it just wouldn't work for me to work the way that I do now, going long term.
Yeah.
My body will eventually not do what I want it to do.
Yeah.
And I might just get to a point where I don't want to look at a burger for 8 hours a day or 18 hours a day. So I would love to expand my business. I just haven't figured out how exactly. I would love to start a prop business. Where I hire out beautiful props for shoots and backgrounds, and
We need one in Joburg.
Yes, really badly.
Yes.
And I've been looking at it for like the last 6 years, and I just haven't had a minute to do it. But do it. All right. So yes, the prop hire would be amazing, and then I think it would have to be either a beautiful food studio, or potentially food brands. I've always wanted to create my own food products. I've got too many ideas.
Amazing, and I trust that they will all come to life.
Thank you. I hope so.
They will. Bianca, this has been so amazing. Thank you so much for making the time to come out and speak to us. I've enjoyed this. And I'm sure everybody that's into food, is a creative and wants to get into food styling, I'm sure that they will appreciate this episode.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I appreciate you having me. It's been an absolute honor and pleasure to be here and to talk about something that I really hold close to my heart, that I love and I'm so passionate about. I want to do this again, and we want to talk about more things because I have so much to say.
Yes,
but I'm really, it makes me happy if anything I've said today has taught someone that would love to be a food stylist something about the industry.
Amazing. So I guess I'll see you on another episode soon.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. And on that note, I'll see you on the next episode. This has been Chefing Beyond the Kitchen. Hope you enjoyed this conversation. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you on the next one.